I'm really excited. I'm going to jump right in with Greg, and I'll let you know that. Hey, Greg. Greg is one of my favorite people. We are limited to 30 minutes today. Greg and I were joking a lot about how that's hardly enough for us to even get started. So we should, Greg, because we got a lot to cover about what's going on around us and how exciting it is.
Good.
Um, you asked me to tell my story from a couple of weeks ago because we
Yes.
want to talk about autonomous. I was in Phoenix and I was at an event and I got my chance to do my first Waymo.
Awesome.
And I'm in the parking lot and the Waymo pulls up and my initials are on the top and I can change the colors with my Bluetooth and then the door doesn't open. And then it counts down and I'm text chatting and I'm like, how do what? And then they said, oh, too late. And I said, well, what do I do? And they said, well, order another one. So I did, and it showed up and it opened, and I got in, and the drive was absolutely fabulous to the airport. Clean, not smelly, safe. It was really quiet. It was wonderful. And then it dropped me at the wrong terminal. Right gate, but the wrong terminal. But I still thought it was fabulous. And so, autonomous,
Yeah,
it's coming, right?
yeah. It's
We
it's
see it.
it's actually already here.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating story because it highlights a couple things that, as amazing as the ride was for you, it did not produce the outcome that you desired, and
Mm-mm.
that is a lesson
Yet,
yet.
yet.
But probably the next rider, if it's using some LLM behind the scenes, it will recognize that you produced an error in the routing system. So I love that story. Not because I'm anti-autonomous. I'm actually the other way. I'm excited. I have not done Waymo yet, but it's not because of I don't want to. I just haven't been in a city where it's available. But and that leads to some of the discussion we'll have today. Waymo is actually a company that is working with the commercial trucking industry. Many of the manufacturers are actually partnered with them to look at
Mhm.
this technology to do these deliveries. And if you think about why that is, we've got a labor shortage. Number one,
Right.
people, just not enough people applying for CDLs or
Yep.
their classifications for occupations are attracting people away from it, and autonomous becomes an attractive benefit for society in terms of filling that labor shortage gap, right?
It's not only it's also that around 90% of all truck crashes are caused by human failure, right? And
Yeah,
that was one of the things that struck me. I'm like, this seems much safer than 80% of the people that I'm driving around right now. And
yeah.
I think commercial is such a great space to look at autonomous. It certainly started in ag and mining, where the pathways were easy. But today, Gallic has just announced they're a middle mile box truck company, and they've announced an investment by Isuzu. They were already working with Ryder and a number of others. They're in Texas, Arizona,
Yeah.
and Arkansas. And Kodiak, who has partnered with Roush and a couple of others, they also announced an investment, and they're doing more long freight.
Mhm.
And they're in Texas and and going into and they're in New Mexico, and it just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It just makes
you know,
sense.
the first point you made is super important in our conversation because when you look at, when we think of commercial trucks or someone like me that you had introduced me to this industry a few years ago, I was always thinking semi trucks, and that's only really 7% of the overall commercial trucking industry. It's really these fleets of five or less vehicles. And when you look at that specific niche, that's where this benefit probably applies the most. I'll give you an example. When Kellogg's company bought Keebler, they did it because Kellogg's had a hard time getting their Kellogg's, a cereal company now,
Yeah.
um, had a hard time getting their cereal and their convenience foods into these convenience stores, right? The 7-Elevens, the
Mhm.
urban centers. And the acquisition of Keebler was important because Keebler had that network of these smaller trucks that could go into these urban areas and
Right.
deliver in the Kellogg food, because
We
that's what
call that the middle mile.
it's the middle mile and even probably the last mile. It's like hub to hub,
Mhm.
right? Kellogg's did very well servicing schools and prisons and government, but they had a very hard time getting at where the society was moving into convenience food. And so, again, I don't want to, it's not a story about acquisitions, but this is a story about companies looking at how trends in society, people wanting convenience food, um, is important for their business to thrive and survive. And that last mile and that hub to hub type routing is super important.
While you're talking about this, I think I'm going to jump to our third conversation real quick because
Sure.
you're going to talk about what's going on in the last mile delivery area.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to say 98% of customers today say the delivery experience impacts their brand loyalty. 98%.
Mm.
66% expect same day.
Oh,
44% are willing to wait 2 days.
yeah.
I'm like, holy cow, and when you think about it, it's a $180 billion business right now, a $480 billion business by 34, growing at 10.5% a year. It's a huge business where autonomous,
Hmm.
electric,
Hmm.
and route optimization, which we can jump into next then, is so important that it's helping, this grow. And we'll wait and see if we have enough time to talk about drones, which is one of my favorite
I
things.
know,
But
I know. I know we didn't talk about that at our prep meeting, but I was hoping we'd get there.
well, the FAA just announced that a big, so in August there was a change in the ruling and stuff, so everybody got really excited. But now the FAA has said that you need to have people have driver's license IDs and all of that when they're loading them
Yeah,
because it could be taking anything, right?
yeah.
But Dave's Hot Chicken and Chipotle and Walmart and a bunch of others, primarily in Texas, which kind of makes sense, are all, testing that 30-minute delivery. It's
Yeah,
like, whoa.
yeah. Well, think about Texas, think about Austin, in some of those areas. It's somewhat mountainous. It's somewhat the traffic congestion is really bad. Drone delivery can make that so much more efficient.
Mhm.
In areas that have that dense population.
I had this, I haven't seen it, but I had a picture of an idea of a work truck that had a load of drones on it that would drive to a certain place that could then disperse the drones and track them and all that. And I believe that at some point we'll be seeing those kinds of upfits.
Well, I'm old enough to remember Popular Mechanics told us we'd have flying cars by now. So I was
I
thinking,
know.
yeah,
Come on. They also, when I was in college, they also told us we'd have a 4-day work week by now. But what the heck?
yeah.
We were talking a little bit about telematics, and I know that you suggested that word is probably evolving now.
Yeah, and I worked at GM. I worked in the OnStar division for a while. We were based around the hardware telematics, so I'm very familiar with that technology, and the usefulness of it. The core of OnStar's business was obviously safety and security. You get a
Mhm.
crash and it responds. The same would apply in the commercial trucking industry too. But even more importantly, too, that technology has evolved. It actually got its start in the railroads. I'm glad you brought up the Industrial Revolution because the telematics actually was a railroad technology as part of this Industrial Revolution. Um, but back to current day, telematics is much more than just a signal that kind of goes out based on a trigger. It's stuff that can actually manipulate the car. So a theft occurs, some construction truck gets with its trailer behind it gets stolen. Telematics can send a signal, can slow the vehicle down so that the police can respond and intercept that vehicle very quickly.
Mm. Yeah.
It can track the vehicle with a number of different triangulation through cell phone towers and that type of thing as well.
In
Um,
fact, I think one of the things that just triggered is there's such a focus now on temperature control for
oh,
refrigerated vehicles
great point.
that it combines with the telematics and that that food that's been on the road for X period of time has never gone below a certain above a certain temperature, right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So all those things keep evolving, and now with electrification, you've got server to server type connectivity, and so even on dealer lots when they're selling these things, they can real time update pricing on the dealer lot through some of that server connectivity,
Mhm.
in addition to all the routing stuff that can be applied. But yeah,
So it's becoming and we know it's like a software business. It's really what that connectivity
yes, and that's how that's
future
yeah, yeah,
is offering,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
I do think that, as you know, Jim Press, who's presenting, he does such a great job with our panels. His experience as CEO of Toyota, and then
yeah,
CEO, COO of Toyota, and CEO of Chrysler has, and then his expanded engagement with dealer groups and with other OEMs kind of brought him to a point when we met that he had this view of true mobility, and that that's what we need to be thinking about. We have all these labels of these different parts of it,
yep,
and telematics and I mean, but when you look at it, it's all about moving things, right? People, materials. And the cool thing about where we are today in this conference is that all of that is based on true value,
hmm
that the investments and the leaning into the technology is due to businesses that are saying, if I invest in this technology, if we lean in, if we place a bet here, etc., we can keep moving this technology forward. It was actually one of the things we were talking about
yeah,
in the Industrial Revolution, that's how that happened, is that there
yeah.
were rich people who made big bets on stuff, because they were actually very competitive with each other too. So there was a little of that going on. Um,
Yeah, it was we talked about the Gilded Age earlier, and it's amazing the concentration of wealth as well, primarily in Great Britain.
mhm.
And their biggest mistake in Great Britain was, or they claim, Cecil Rhodes is a good example of this, where he claimed America ruined his plans. They lost America, and when they lost America, they lost they lost
Yes,
that last expansion. But you actually had a good story about the U.S. and the natural resources, and how important that it was to U.S. being this now center of boom and populate or economic growth, and how you can talk a little bit more about it, but just
well,
because
sure. I mean,
yeah,
it's a great book, and I will give Peter Zeihan really high kudos for it. His first book was called The Accidental Superpower, and it's all about how
hmm
transportation, I mean, our geography was so huge, but there were rivers
hmm
that went very long distances that allowed us to transport
that's right.
things. And then there's the whole period of time with the railroads, right? And how important the railroads were to building. I mean, when you stop and think about how it took 2 weeks in a stagecoach to get from the East Coast to the West Coast at one point in time, that was phenomenal,
True.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very amazing. And when you look at how these things affect humanity, we could spend a long time. I know you and I, Greg, because we like to talk about stuff like this.
We do. But I think that's important because it may apply to our next topic, is that because of that ability to tap into the natural resources, it provided great economic advantage over some of the other countries that were trying to dominate us. In fact,
Mhm.
even through the Civil War, we were still resisting British influence. But fast forward to, oh gosh, Kathryn, I'm so old, I can't remember. But the you talked about it. You called it the IoT revolution, or the
Right. Yeah.
technology, right?
Yeah, different people say it started at different times. They kind of highlight mid, like 50s, 60s.
Fair enough.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. That's the digital revolution,
Well,
right?
it's
That's when computers started.
right.
And then after 2000 is when the IoT
Internet of
cloud,
Things. Yeah.
which by the way, having had a company that used hardware and software, and thinking about vehicles today and the
Yeah.
difference between hardware and software, the ease
Mhm.
of things when you are only software. I mean, like software in the cloud is like heaven to me.
Yeah.
Like having to deal with how the hardware worked, and when tiny changes would happen, we'd have a little chip on a board that they said was the same, but it was made by a different manufacturer and it would change the whole way everything was successful. So
Yep.
it's very interesting to see that happening in the auto industry
Yeah.
and cars. And we joked about, just want you all to know, I gave him a bad time when I told him he should have taken the time to digitally change where cars come to life to where trucks. So I'm sorry, in the
Oh,
spring, when you come back, you have to have that for us, okay?
well, our company did cut its teeth in commercial trucks. We 8 out of every 10 vehicles in Asia Pacific go through our configurators, and the primarily it's driven by commercial trucks in India with Tata Motors. So I need to change that. We are really more of a commercial truck than a
Yeah,
passenger.
we have to put one that has trucks, just trucks. And you do. In fact, that was so fun. So just so you all know, I met Greg, it seems like forever ago, but it's not been that long. It's only been like a year and a half ago. I
Maybe.
think it's
Yeah.
almost 2 years, when he was at his previous employer and we did the project together. And then he joined Eccentric, which has just blown my mind because of what they've been able to do in this new era of being able to customize and show things. Now, Work Truck Solutions, for all of you that may not know us very well, we specialize in having the configuration information for all of these custom commercial vehicles. That's what we do. And we do a lot of things with it. And we help a lot of different stakeholders in different ways. But the heart of it is knowing what that vehicle really is and being able to help the end buyer find it based upon what their needs are.
Yep.
And so I was very excited, and we did save a little time to talk today about the trend of customization. And I was just at an event called Autovate,
Oh,
which is a fantastic, very small group of people, senior executives that talk about M&A, but also future. And one person was asked, well, what's it going to be like in 25 years? And I can't remember who it was, so I apologize in advance, but for not assigning this. But he goes, everybody's going to have their own custom version of a vehicle.
yeah.
And I was like, whoa. And he said it's already aftermarket accessories is a $500 billion business because people want their vehicles to be who they are, what they want them to be. And I'm like, well, of course that happened. I mean, I come from a period of time when the cars are really cool, and now they're just kind of all the same.
I
So
know.
why wouldn't people want to do that?
I,
And
I
so
love that
this,
you said that.
yeah.
They all look alike, and everybody wants to personalize it, customize it. There was a real interesting case study on this about 6 months ago. A company called Slate Auto.
Oh, I know Slate. I've signed up.
Yeah, so did I. So you were one of the 100,000 people that plucked down $50 for a deposit
Yep.
on one. They did this amazing media blitz. They drove people to their configurator on their website to personalize their vehicle. They had multi permutations of how you could customize your truck. Third row, hitch, receiver,
Is it
bed.
an SUV? Is it a truck? Is it a
Yeah.
sedan?
And
Woo!
you can make it what you wanted. And that appealed to, again, almost within a week, about 100,000 people, including you and me, put down a $50 deposit on one
And I got the
without knowing
t-shirt
if
with
it's
that.
even going to launch. But, it's Jeff Bezos backed. He did his job with the media blitz. Now it's the manufacturing side to actually produce these things. But the point of that is that the amount of people that want to personalize and customize their vehicle, that just proved that case
Yeah.
in my mind. And we see it with dealers here at Eccentric too. I was just meeting with a fairly large auto group here in Detroit, and she was the first dealer I've ever heard. This is on the passenger vehicle side, but she's the first dealer I've ever heard that used the word upfit. She wants to upfit her vehicles before they even
Mm,
get to what the consumer she wants the data from us to understand what she should be putting on her lot that's already upfitted with accessories. And I imagine she got that word because she is, I think, one of your customers on the
right.
business link side. But
Well, that's great. Because it is
I
a
found it
it,
fascinating. That's their mindset now.
well, and that's a whole different conference, isn't it? But
Yeah, yeah.
but what's so great is that technology today allows us. Well, okay, I'm going to tell you another little story. Like, I mean, the way Work Truck Solutions got started was I was publishing Ford Pros magazine in 2007, 8, and in 9, the president of the National Ford Truck Club said, "Hey, I don't have a plumber's truck, and to find one, I have to get on the phone and start calling dealers." And I'm like, "You just don't understand the internet. Here, let me help you."
Yeah,
Because it was Boolean search, and you had to know a little bit about how to do that. 2 months later, I'm like, I'm pulling my hair out here. I don't understand. Why can we not search for this? And then I started mapping the supply chain and found that there was nowhere in the universe that anybody was actually keeping track of what the final configuration of the vehicle is. Now in automotive, okay, I can kind of understand it, but
yeah,
in commercial, this is what the vehicle
it's
is.
everything. I know.
What it becomes is how it's going to be used.
Yeah,
And as I pointed out, because I was teaching marketing at the time, this is a $130 billion industry at the time, it's 170 now. And like, if you don't know what you're selling, you don't know who your customers are.
no idea.
I mean, to me, it's just been that journey of trying to get to that place where the end customer has visibility into and choice around. So the other part of that is the speed with which these kinds of customizations can be made.
Yeah,
And while we're talking about technology, it has been very absent in the supply chain.
yes,
Um, Estimates are over 50% inefficient because of a lack of visibility into it, right? And so, I'm not going to mention any of the OEMs or the upfitters or anybody that I've been working with, but when you map it, the average is a year for a vehicle to be produced by the OEM, and all the transportation and everything and being chosen and being built and then being delivered and then being sold. And it's like, wow. I mean, that's especially in a period of time now when there's interest being charged at the rate that it is.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree more. I was just talking to somebody. I won't call out the OEM either, but it's not even unique to this OEM. But when they order a truck from the factory, and then the customer requires a schematic of an upfitting configuration. It's literally looks like my fifth grader drew it in the
Mhm.
system. It's almost like a COBOL based programming. That's how far back these
Well,
systems
it
are.
probably is.
Yeah, and
Greg, I'm not kidding you.
no,
It
and
probably is. And
yeah,
I feel sorry for, I mean, this was my joke about hardware, right? I feel sorry for manufacturers
yeah,
right now. They're the people I feel the most sorry for because the change is happening so rapidly. They have huge investments in process and factories and stuff. But you notice that Ford announced their modification to their plan for their new electric vehicle, which is not going to be produced on an assembly line, is it?
that's right.
Because
Yeah,
because it'll be faster.
yeah, I
And
know.
that's how things change,
Yeah.
that's how things evolve. Process evolves too.
But even think about that ordering system, Kathryn. That's where like Work Truck Solutions can help because you're really at the end of the day, don't bash me, but you're a software company. That's how I always
Yeah,
view you.
absolutely. We
Yeah,
are,
and
absolutely.
and so
Software and data.
think about you being a middleware where
Mhm,
you can apply some of the AI stuff you're doing.
mhm.
I know some of the other technology you're investing in. You can actually help an OEM reduce that time. I know you already are doing it on some of this stuff, but you can reduce that time from order to delivery
Yes.
substantially just by applying some very rudimentary technology. So
It is it's a wonderful industry to be in. First of all, I think automotive is very exciting. I think dealers are, I've come to really appreciate dealerships. They're like individual entrepreneurs, each one of them.
yeah,
They really are unique in how they approach things, but they have an appetite for solving problems, and they keep evolving and evolving. And
yeah,
in the beginning, I wasn't sure, but the commercial department, to me, is like the place where I love, and helping B2B
yeah,
to become all it can be.
yeah,
That's what we heard yesterday. Honestly, that was the theme throughout everything, is like, quit thinking, like the canned sales approach. Quit thinking, about how dealerships have run sales in the past. Think about the end solution and the customer, and that will get you to the path that you need. And that again, mentioning Jim Press, that's what I loved about when he came in and saw what we were doing. He got that if dealers could start doing this and doing this in their dealership for businesses, it would
Hmm.
help them with
Yeah,
their customers because
that's right.
that's what we're talking about is that customization is kind of the wave of the future. Mobility is the wave of the future. Being creative and getting out of your own way of what how you've always done in the past, and that was another quote from Einstein. It's like we
Yeah,
cannot solve problems with the same thinking that we created the problems with, right?
that's right.
And so we have to step back and say, where are all the different places that we can draw from that will help us get to the solution that we think we want? That was the other thing. This is one I wrote down because I loved it so much. If I had an hour to solve a problem to save my life, I'd spend the first 55 minutes defining the problem. That's what Einstein says.
Yeah.
We really have to kind of keep reminding ourselves about where we're going and what the goal is rather than getting caught up in fast solutions that, and things evolve so quickly.
We,
It's
we
hard.
promised
It's
you,
like
we
being on a
promised you,
late razor.
yeah, and we promised each other we wouldn't talk about AI, but I feel like you're on kind of the cutting edge of because customization and upfitting, the AI side of this is speed to market, speed to efficiencies. Some of these businesses they can't be down for they can't be down for
You're right.
and I feel like AI can accelerate some of the things you're doing with helping this short
Mhm.
delivery time and that type of thing with the OEMs.
I agree. And I think, as a very broad subject, AI is like a dark hole, but how you use it specifically. It's like I was in a discussion this week with some team members about how to use AI to help with configuration. Well, we don't want to replace what we do, which is
No, no,
actually get the
right,
actual configuration from an invoice so that it's detailed. But yes, it can help with finding out more information and making sure that the ones we don't have invoices for, that we have a better idea of what they are and just overall continuing to build it. But it's important to know the difference of where AI can help right now.
right.
It's not a replacement
No,
of anything. It
no,
is an add-on. It's a
yeah,
enhancement. It's if you're careful, an improvement. Again,
yeah,
spend the, 55 minutes defining what it is you want, not just letting it do whatever it wants to do,
right,
right?
right. It's like your Waymo experience that we talked about.
Yeah.
It's there. You still, there's still some, quirk, little bugs to work out, right? It's AI is not the solution, but it can augment or complement existing processes and make those existing processes much faster.
Yeah, well, that's that I have to admit, autonomous is such a leap.
Mhm.
But it is one, and early on, I'm not going to mention the scary TV shows that have talked about security and taking over a vehicle and blah 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 because
Yeah.
they are scary.
Mhm.
But that's back to that you got to take a risk and
You,
you've
you know what's
got
scary? You know what's scary though, Kathryn? When I
what?
drive on the highway and I look over and I see one out of every two cars and the person's on there watching something on their mobile phone. That's
Yep.
what's scary.
Well, and you're right. And that's what clicked me over is 80% of the people on the road today, I look at them and I go, you don't care about the fact that driving is a skill.
Right.
You've never really cared about that, right? But also, yeah, you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think that that's a good place where we can help. And whether, it'd be better to have a car that would slap people or not,
Yeah.
get their attention back. One last thought from you and then from me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I just am excited for the future of commercial trucking with all the technology, the autonomous stuff, and even electrification. We didn't touch on that, but I don't want to dismiss that. Regardless of what's happening on the passenger vehicle side with electric vehicles, there's still a ton of money, ton of rebates, incentives, and motivation to electrify our commercial side of the business. So
It's where it's practical that now though. It's about looking at the total cost of ownership and
Yeah,
making it make sense. And whether that's because you want to be green and your brand grows because of the investment, or whether that's because you save on fuel, there's a lot of reasons why a business chooses to do something.
that's right. That's right. And those inputs are available, and you can get that total cost of ownership very quickly on your Convoy site. Now,
I've got one last thing, one last quote, of course,
yeah.
from Mr. Einstein. Life is like riding a bicycle. You must keep moving.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm going to move to lunch after this.
Well, I really appreciate you joining me. It's always so much fun.
Thank
And
you.
like Greg and I always say, talking for 30 minutes for us is nothing. We can keep going all day.
Thank you.
Thanks.